The wedding hall was decorated with white flowers and soft lights that reflected off the polished floor. Guests filled the seats slowly, adjusting their clothes and whispering to one another as they waited. The air was calm on the surface, but underneath it carried quiet judgment and curiosity. Everyone knew this wedding had been talked about for weeks in the small town. The bride had become the center of those talks. Her name was Maya. People had seen her from a distance and formed opinions without knowing her heart. They spoke about her body, her looks, and whether she fit their idea of a bride. Very few spoke about her kindness or her strength. Maya stood in a small room behind the hall, holding a bouquet of pale flowers in her hands. Her dress was simple and clean, chosen with care and hope. She looked at herself in the mirror and took a slow breath. She knew what people were saying outside those walls. She had heard the comments in the market, in passing conversations, and even from relatives. They said she was too big for a wedding dress. They said she should have chosen something less noticeable. They said the groom deserved someone different. Each word had stayed with her, even though she tried to let them go. Still, Maya had decided she would walk forward with dignity. She believed that love should not be hidden. She believed that respect should not be earned through appearance. Today was supposed to be the start of a new life. The music began softly as the doors of the hall opened. All eyes turned toward the entrance. Maya stepped forward slowly, her back straight and her face calm. The sound of whispers rose like a wave across the room. Some guests smiled politely, while others exchanged looks filled with quiet laughter. Maya felt every gaze on her body and her dress. She felt the weight of judgment pressing against her chest. Still, she walked forward one step at a time. Her hands trembled slightly, but she did not stop. At the front of the hall stood the groom, his expression uncertain. He shifted his weight and avoided looking directly at her. That small movement did not go unnoticed by those watching closely. Maya noticed it too, and her heart tightened. Near the back of the hall stood a man named Ben. He was a rancher who lived beyond the town, surrounded by wide land and open skies. He rarely attended social events and preferred quiet work to crowded rooms. He had been invited by someone who barely knew him. Ben stood with his hands at his sides, watching the scene unfold. He noticed the whispers before he noticed the bride. He noticed the way people leaned toward each other with smirks. Then he saw Maya. He did not see her as others did. He did not measure her body or judge her appearance. He saw the effort it took for her to keep walking. He saw the strength in her eyes as she faced the crowd. He saw courage where others saw something to mock. Ben knew what it felt like to be judged without being known. People had called him rough and simple because of his work. They assumed he lacked depth because he lived far from town. He had learned to stay quiet, but he never stopped noticing unfairness. As Maya reached the middle of the hall, the whispers grew louder. A few guests laughed softly, thinking they could not be heard. Maya kept her eyes forward, but her heart was racing. She wondered if she had made a mistake by believing in this moment. The groom cleared his throat but did not step forward. That pause felt endless. The silence became uncomfortable. Maya felt the sting of embarrassment rise in her chest. Ben felt something shift inside him. He felt anger mixed with sadness. He felt the wrongness of the moment settle deep in his bones. He knew silence would only allow cruelty to grow. Without raising his voice or showing anger, Ben stepped forward. The sound of his boots against the floor broke the tension. Heads turned toward him in surprise. Whispers stopped as people tried to understand what was happening. Ben walked slowly down the aisle. He did not rush and he did not hesitate. His eyes stayed focused on Maya. The crowd watched in disbelief as he moved closer. Maya noticed him approaching and felt confusion wash over her. She did not know him well, only by name. She wondered why he was walking toward her. Ben stopped beside her and turned to face the crowd. The room was silent now. Every breath felt loud in the stillness. Then Ben spoke. His voice was steady and clear. He did not shout or accuse. He simply spoke the truth as he saw it. "She is the one I want." Gasps filled the hall. Some people covered their mouths. Others shook their heads in disbelief. The groom stepped back, unsure of what to say. Maya felt her breath leave her body. She stared at Ben, unsure if she had heard correctly. Her heart pounded as emotion rushed through her. Ben turned to her gently. "There is nothing wrong with you," he said. "You should not stand here being judged. You deserve respect and choice." Tears filled Maya's eyes, but she did not let them fall. For the first time that day, she felt seen. Not as a bride to be measured, but as a person to be valued. The hall remained silent as the moment settled. No one laughed now. No one whispered. Maya stood at the center of the room, her life shifting in a way she never expected. And this was only the beginning. The silence inside the wedding hall felt heavier than the whispers that came before. People looked at one another, unsure of how to react to what had just happened. Maya stood still, her body tense as her mind struggled to catch up. Ben remained beside her, calm and grounded. He did not pull her or push her toward any choice. He simply stood there as if he belonged in that place. The groom looked embarrassed and confused. He shifted his feet and glanced toward the guests for support. None came. The crowd that once whispered now avoided eye contact. Maya slowly turned her head and looked at Ben. Her voice was quiet but steady when she spoke. "Why would you say that?" Ben did not answer right away. He looked around the hall before meeting her eyes again. "Because no one else was saying what needed to be said. Because you were standing alone." Maya felt a wave of emotion rise in her chest. She had been prepared for rejection, but not for this. Not for someone stepping forward without shame. The room remained still as Maya took a slow breath. She looked at the groom one last time. He said nothing. That silence told her everything she needed to know. Maya reached up and gently removed the ring from her finger. Her hands shook slightly, but her movement was firm. She placed the ring on the table near the altar. The sound it made felt final. A quiet gasp spread through the hall. Some guests leaned forward, others looked away. No one stopped her. Maya turned back toward Ben. "What happens now?" Ben gave a small, honest smile. "Now you choose what feels right for you." Maya looked down at her dress and then at the crowd. For years she had lived under the weight of other people's opinions. She had learned to make herself smaller to keep peace. Standing there, she realized she no longer wanted that life. She lifted her chin and took Ben's arm. The gesture was simple but powerful. It was not an escape. It was a decision. Together they walked down the aisle. The sound of their steps echoed through the hall. No one laughed this time. No one spoke. Outside, the air felt fresh and wide. The sky stretched endlessly above them. Maya took a deep breath and felt her chest loosen for the first time that day. They stopped near the edge of the steps. Ben released her arm gently. "I did not mean to take over your moment," he said. "I only wanted you to know you had a choice." Maya looked at him carefully. "You gave me something I did not know I needed," she said. "You reminded me I mattered." Ben nodded slowly. That was always true. For a moment they stood in silence. The noise of the hall behind them faded. Only the sound of wind and distant voices remained. Maya realized she did not feel afraid. She felt clear. That surprised her more than anything else. Ben offered to walk her home. Maya agreed without hesitation. They moved side by side, not touching, but comfortable. As they walked through town, people stared. Some looked shocked, others thoughtful. No one said anything unkind. Maya noticed how different it felt to walk without shame. Her steps felt lighter. Her shoulders relaxed. Ben spoke about his ranch and the open fields. He spoke simply and honestly. Maya listened and found comfort in his calm voice. She told him about her childhood and her dreams. She spoke about wanting a life where she felt accepted. Ben listened without interrupting. By the time they reached her home, the sun was beginning to lower. The light painted everything in warm tones. Maya turned to face him. "I do not know what comes next," she said. Ben nodded. "That is all right. No one needs to know everything at once." Maya smiled softly. It was the first real smile of the day. That night, the town talked. But the tone had changed. The story was no longer about a bride being mocked. It was about a woman who chose herself. And somewhere beyond the town lights, a ranch waited quietly, open and honest, just like the path Maya had begun to walk. The next morning arrived quietly, carrying a soft light over the town. Maya woke up earlier than usual, her mind still full of the events from the wedding day. She sat on the edge of her bed and placed her feet on the floor slowly. For the first time in a long while, she did not feel heavy with worry. She thought about the way Ben had stood beside her without asking for anything. She remembered the calm in his voice and the honesty in his eyes. It was not a moment built on drama but on respect. Maya spent the morning cleaning her small home. Each movement felt purposeful. She opened windows and let fresh air flow inside. The town outside felt different now. Later that day, she stepped outside to walk through the market. People noticed her as she passed. Some nodded politely. Others looked thoughtful but stayed silent. No one whispered. That alone felt like change. As she reached the edge of town, she saw Ben waiting near his truck. He stood with his hands in his pockets, relaxed but unsure. When he saw Maya, he smiled gently. "I thought I would check on you," Ben said. "Only if that is all right." Maya nodded. "I am glad you came," she said. They walked together along the dirt road that led away from town. The sound of gravel under their steps felt grounding. The open land stretched ahead of them. Ben spoke about the ranch and the work waiting for him. He described early mornings and long evenings. He spoke of quiet moments that felt full. Maya listened closely. She imagined the wide fields and open skies. The thought made her feel calm. She told Ben about her fears. She spoke about how long she had tried to fit into spaces that never welcomed her. She spoke about learning to stay silent to avoid judgment. Ben listened without offering quick answers. He respected her words by letting them settle. "You do not need to change to belong," Ben said. "Some places are built for honesty." They reached a small hill overlooking the land. The wind moved gently through the grass. Maya took a deep breath and felt grounded. Days passed slowly but steadily. Ben did not rush anything. He visited when invited and stayed when welcomed. Maya learned that comfort could exist without pressure. She learned that being seen did not require performance. One afternoon, Ben invited her to the ranch. Maya hesitated for a moment, but agreed. The drive took them away from noise and closer to quiet. The land opened wide as they approached. The ranch stood simple and strong against the horizon. Maya stepped out of the truck and looked around. The space felt honest. Nothing pretended to be more than it was. Ben showed her the fields and the animals. He spoke with care and patience. Maya noticed how gently he moved. She realized this was where he belonged. Not because it was perfect but because it was real. They sat on the porch as the sun lowered. The sky changed colors slowly. Maya felt a sense of peace settle inside her. "I have never felt this calm," she said. Ben nodded. "Some places allow you to breathe," he said. Maya smiled. She felt her walls soften. That evening, as she returned home, she knew something had shifted. Not because of romance alone, but because she had stepped into a life where respect came first. The town continued to talk quietly, but their words no longer held power over her. Maya slept deeply that night. Her dreams were calm and open. She knew the future was still unknown, But for the first time, she trusted herself to walk toward it. Life slowly settled into a new rhythm for Maya. Days no longer felt heavy when she woke up. She moved through her mornings with purpose and calm. She spent more time at the ranch as weeks passed. Not every day, but often enough to feel connected. The open land welcomed her without judgment. Ben never rushed her into promises. He never spoke of the future as something fixed. He allowed moments to grow naturally. Maya learned the routines of the ranch. She helped with small tasks and listened carefully. She found comfort in simple work and honest effort. The animals responded to her gentle presence. She noticed how patience brought trust. That lesson felt familiar to her own heart. In town, people slowly adjusted to the change. Some greeted her with kindness they had never shown before. Others remained quiet, unsure how to act. Maya no longer tried to read their thoughts. She had learned that her worth did not depend on approval. One afternoon, the town held a small gathering. Maya hesitated before attending. Ben encouraged her without pressure. She walked into the gathering with steady steps. Her posture was calm and confident. People noticed the change immediately. There were no whispers this time. There were no hidden laughs. Only quiet observation and respect. Maya spoke when she wished and stayed silent when she chose. She did not feel the need to prove anything. Ben stood nearby, not as a shield, but as support. Their presence together felt natural. Later that evening, they walked under the open sky. Stars filled the darkness with soft light. The air felt peaceful. Maya stopped and looked around. "I never thought peace could feel like this," she said. Ben nodded. "Peace comes when you stop fighting who you are," he said. Maya reflected on her journey. She remembered the pain of judgment. She remembered the fear of being seen. She also remembered the moment she chose herself. That choice had changed everything. Seasons shifted quietly. The land changed colors. Time moved forward without rush. Maya grew stronger in ways she never expected. She laughed more freely. She spoke her thoughts without fear. Ben admired her growth without trying to shape it. He respected her independence and her strength. One morning, as sunlight spread across the fields, Ben spoke gently. "I do not need you to be anything but yourself," he said. Maya smiled with understanding. "That is all I ever wanted," she said. Their connection deepened through trust and honesty. It was not built on rescue or pity. It was built on choice. The town slowly changed its story. People spoke of courage instead of judgment. They spoke of respect instead of appearance. Maya became known not as the bride who was mocked, but as the woman who walked forward with dignity. She returned to the wedding hall one day for a different event. The memory no longer hurt. It reminded her how far she had come. Standing there, she felt gratitude instead of pain. That space had marked a turning point. As she walked out, she felt light. The past no longer followed her. Maya and Ben continued their lives side by side. Not perfect, but honest and grounded. The ranch remained open and welcoming. The town grew quieter and kinder. Maya knew her story would be remembered, not because of how it began, but because of how she chose to live. And in that quiet strength, her journey found its true ending.